Today we're at the North Loop Trailhead in the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and we're gonna scope out a new approach to Mummy Mountain, and I'm not sure where it starts from the bottom, so I'm going to go from the top down. I believe it's Cougar Ridge, and we'll find out. All I know is that when I go up the North Loop Trail, go to Raintree, take a right, go to Mummy Springs. On the way to Mummy Springs, well, actually right after I pass below Mummy Springs, there is a trail that heads down. And I always wondered, it looks like a pretty nice trail. I always wondered where that trail ended up. We're on Deer Creek Road right now, and I know that there's a Cougar Ridge trailhead just a little beyond where we are here in this direction. And so what I'm imagining is that maybe I'll take that trail down from Mummy Springs and end up at the Cougar Ridge Trail, and then just walk the road back here. Now, on the other hand, if it takes me way down Deer Creek Road, it's going to be a long walk back to this spot on this road, and problem with that is, here you see a pretty healthy shoulder, but you go around the corner down the bend there and the shoulder almost disappears. So I'll be a moving target on Deer Creek Road on the way back, and hopefully it's not too long. Okay, let's just see what happens. Exploration today. Okay, wow, at a walk today, since I'm still dealing with an injury, I'm at my favorite plateau on the North Loop Trail, and it took 45 minutes to get here. Now I've been able to get up to Raintree in not too much more than 45 minutes. But here we are gauging not a hugely fast walking speed. And so if you've been thinking of trying this trail and you are not a trail runner, but you walk instead, then this is today's route and timing will give you an idea how long the adventure will take. Now, from this perspective here, of course you can see the familiar Mummy Mountain, and I believe that height up there is the summit, maybe. No, maybe not. It could be the summit of the North Loop Trail, and also the summit of the Robber's Roost Canyon Trail, and you can see both of those. Just look at Fletcher Peak Raintree page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com and take a look at the Robber's Roost page. Now, further off in the distance over there, that little mound there, that might be the height that we're talking about. But what I'm guessing is that this height here is around the summit of the Planet Switchback, 14 or so switchbacks, or that could be the summit. It's kind of interesting just to scope out an area and to see, when you're looking around, and rather than being on a linear adventure have a 365-degree view. Of course, there, the base of Mummy, you see the canyon right in the center that has the three washes, and the wash on the right is the one that yeah, and the wash on the left will take you up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. And you can see that on the Mummy Mountain East page. And then there is a height, let's see. Yeah, we haven't done this before. This is kind of interesting. Right up before that summit cliff, there's another cliff that you see. A little bit lower. That lower cliff may be the on the northern Mummy Mountain northern overlook page. You'll see that. And at some point, we're going to go up to the top of this lower cliff and see if we can take well, I don't know. See if we can figure out how to get to the summit of Mummy Mountain from that area. And it's not impossible. Okay, in the meantime, let's take a look and see if we can eyeball the Cougar Ridge Descent Trail. If it is the Cougar Ridge Trail, we don't know what trail it is. We're going to find out today. But, you know, I suspect that right down there, you see that little ridge down there? That is the descent trail that we're going to take today, which means that we're going to descend from the east side of Mummy Mountain, starting just beyond Mummy Springs. So we'll see. On the other hand, who knows? It could be this area here. You see a, let's see. Yeah, you see looks like a house property. Let's see. Yeah, right over there you see some property, and there's a road that heads down, and there's a little A-frame cabin down in that area, and that road may be a descent from Mummy Mountain. So we don't know where we're going to end up today, but hopefully all roads down lead to Deer Creek Road, and then I can head back to the North Loop Trailhead. Now, on the other hand, if they don't, I'm going to have to trek back up to Mummy Springs, which is going to be quite an experience. So that gives you an idea of what we're going to explore today. Just an alternate approach from Deer Creek Road up to the east side of Mummy Mountain. And we'll time things too. Okay, onward. Okay, we are topping Planet Switchback and nearing the high point of this whole adventure. It's 9:12, so the switchbacks took me about 15-20 minutes at a walk. So that gives you an idea what you're dealing with as a walker. Now let's top this ridge and look down. And maybe we'll see the route I'll be taking downward after I hit Mummy Springs. I don't know. Not a whole lot of view from this spot. So, no, not a good perspective. We're not seeing anything here. So, let's continue on up and we'll see if there's another location where we can look downward. Okay, we're at the summit of the North Loop Trail before it heads down to Raintree. Reason I wanted to stop here for a moment is that there's a natural ridge here. If you remember the Robber's Roost to Fletcher Peak page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, this is where we actually took Robber's Roost Canyon and we ascended to this high point right here, and it's actually part of a ridge system, but we ascended to this high point and then headed on over to Fletcher Peak, which is straight ahead. And here's the ridge we ascended, and we summited right here, and then you can see the North Loop Trail right beyond this rock in the foreground. And so we just came around and here we are on the North Loop Trail. And of course you can see Mummy's Toe, the background there. But the reason I stopped here also is that there's actually a high ridge up here that gives a good perspective down to the canyon where I think Cougar Ridge Trail is located, if that is indeed the trail we are going to descend from beyond Mummy Springs. So let's just go ahead and head up here, see if we can top this ridge and look down. I know there's a better perspective from up here. I've done this many times, but not from this direction. Okay, here we are approaching this height. We've stood here many times, but normally I approach it from a little split off trail at the summit of Planet Switchback on the North Loop Trail. On the other hand, I've backtracked up this ridge, which is the ridge you would continue ascending if you were ascending Robber's Roost Canyon from the Robber's Roost Trailhead area. So here we are at the top of this ridge. The reason I came up here is not only to get a view straight down. See, looking down in that direction, that high point below us is the high point that we saw to the left. We saw two mounds, basically. That was the high point to the left that we saw from the plateau on the North Loop Trail. This is the high point on the right, the one that I'm standing on right now. Let's just head over to a spot with a better view. Here we go. So from this view, you see the tip of Mummy's Toe, and then over to Griffith Peak. You can see the very tip of the very tip of Harris Mountain. And then on up, Fletcher Peak is right here. And then if it weren't so hazy, you'd be looking at La Madre Mountain and El Padre Mountain down in that direction. You can still see the silhouette today. So now let's look in the other direction and see if we can get an idea of that trail we're going to descend from the east side of Mummy Mountain, if it is indeed a trail. Might just want to call it a route. And, you know, I'm hoping that it is the place called Cougar Ridge, but we don't know. We're going to find out. Okay, so as I'm looking on the east side of Mummy Mountain, and we'd be descending from Mummy Springs, just a second. Okay, Mummy Springs is approximately in this direction over here. So just beyond Mummy Springs. I noticed a break-off trail that heads down. Now, I'm imagining that it's Cougar Ridge Trail, but I don't know. One of these ridges that you see is probably Cougar's Ridge. You see 3 ridges there. And those are the 3 ridges, by the way, that we traverse when we're going to the east side of Mummy Mountain and what I call Delta Canyon, aka the Fingers. But from this perspective also, you can see the very northern tip of Mummy Mountain. If you go to the Mummy Mountain Northern Rim page, you can see where I went along the entire outer edge of Mummy Mountain and just documented everything that I could see from there. And then, of course, there's Mummy's Head. And one thing that we want to find at some point is the little route. I saw it from the top of Mummy Mountain, but there is a high point that you can see the cliff right below the summit cliff, right in the center there. It looked almost from the top as if I could traverse and summit Mummy Mountain from just above that cliff. But we don't know. I will try that at some point. I'm not sure I'm going to try it with, while I'm dealing with plantar fasciitis, because what I found is running and avalanche slopes, believe it or not, are not friendly to plantar fasciitis. So bike riding, though, is very good and healing. So I'm transitioning a little bit while I'm overcoming this injury to some really cool bike riding. And a little later in the fall, the winter, when it cools down in the valley, 98 degrees in the valley today, but when it cools down in the lower elevations, I'm going to take those unpaved roads in the Sheep Mountain area, and I'm going to ride those on my bike and then find trailheads and ascend the Sheep Range. I haven't been able to run all the way from the Corn Creek Desert National Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center. I haven't been able to run too far up there. I've gotten as far as the, up into Fossil Ridge. But with the bicycle, and those roads look pretty decent, I may be able to get further. The reason that I'm not taking a car up there is that the beast doesn't handle that. Doesn't handle anything but an asphalt road. So anyway, here are some views from this area. And no, I am not able to really nail a trail that goes down from the Mummy Springs area. And I'm hoping the fact that, I'm looking at it from here and I'm thinking, where would you put such a trail unless it were an avalanche slope, which, as I said, I don't want to do today. But we're going to try it and hope that it's not too brutal and hope that it doesn't end on some other planet, but we actually end up on Deer Creek Road. So that will be a real adventure for today. Okay, onward. Let's explore a little more. Another quick note on wilderness connectors is that, as you can see, Fletcher Peak, and you look downward, and what you're looking at is the left side of Robber's Roost Canyon. And we ascended this ridge last time. We're going to try to ascend straight up Fletcher Peak in the future. And there is this little spot right down here is a part of the Fletcher Peak Trail. So that is key. We ascended the right side as you're ascending, the right side of Robber's Roost Canyon, which would have ended up here had we just continued up and up and up as we did today from the North Loop Trail. Instead, we're going to hit the left side of Robber's Roost Canyon at some point and see if we can head straight up the side of Fletcher Peak. Of course, you can see some cliff action there, but just to the left of that, it looks like there's a potential route. A mound right between the cliff that you see on the right and the edge, the lower edge of Fletcher Peak on the left. There's a bit of a ridge, and that may be an ascent to the summit of Fletcher Peak. We'll see. A quick note, that very beautiful ridge that we were just standing on can also be approached more directly if you're heading up the North Loop Trail from the top of the summit of Planet Switchback, where the switchbacks end. The trail, as I mentioned, breaks off. There's a branch to the right, unmarked little pathway, and you can head straight up to this ridge I was standing on a moment ago. And then once you reach the top of the ridge, you can actually head down this little route that will then, and there it goes, down that way. And what it will do is meet up with the North Loop Trail again. So it's just it's a little detour, but very, very beautiful because there's much more of a view all the way along this route. And the bristlecone pine trees, as you can see, are simply amazing, the shapes that they make. So it's a detour off the North Loop Trail that I would say is very, very worthwhile, and only, it takes a total of maybe 10 minutes added to your North Loop Trail ascent to see all these beautiful views on this ridge. Okay. And see, here we are, having descended this beautiful ridge on the North Loop Trail. And we've descended, and here we are reconnecting with the North Loop Trail on this side. And so it's just a little detour that has probably more bang for the buck as far as your energy, and just 10 minutes extra than just about any loop I can imagine in the Mount Charleston wilderness. So let's continue on the North Loop Trail here, and we are, as you can see, there's Mummy's Toe, and we are heading toward Raintree at this point. So we're going to descend to Raintree in just a moment. Okay, descending the North Loop Trail toward Raintree. I always like to point out the unmarked trailhead for Fletcher Peak Trail. And you see those two logs that are cut away. I'm going to pass between them, and then there will be a second set of two logs that are cut away on either side of the trail. That is the trailhead for Fletcher Peak. Now, Fletcher Peak sounds like, it's a peak, it's going to be really hard, it's going to be a climb. No, it's not. It's actually rather easy. And that's another little detour off the North Loop Trail that gives a lot of bang for your buck as far as energy and time. See, here's the second cutaway tree. And you just take a left here and head up this way, and pretty nice trail emerges right beyond the this fallen tree here. You're going to circle around to the right after you step over the fallen tree, and you'll be on a decently marked trail. It's in very good condition, and it only takes about a half hour, 40 minutes maybe at a walk, to get up to the summit of Fletcher Peak. And from that summit, you can see a beautiful view of Griffith Peak, Mummy Mountain, Mummy's Toe, the La Madre Mountains, and just an amazing 360-degree view. So Fletcher Peak, definitely a must visit for anyone who loves the Mount Charleston wilderness. Okay, so continuing on the North Loop Trail, we head to Raintree. On the North Loop Trail now, descending toward Raintree. And there is Raintree. Beautiful tree. I always have to look up at the canopy as I pass Raintree here. But you'll see a directional sign straight ahead. And that sign tells you that if you head to the left, you're going to hit Trail Canyon Trail. And that's going to, well, you'll continue on the North Loop Trail, but then that's toward, there'll be another split off to Trail Canyon in a couple miles. And that'll lead you down to the Trail Canyon Trailhead in Charleston Village. So if you're coming up from that area and you want to do Fletcher Peak, just continue on this North Loop Trail just a little bit beyond this point to that first cutoff log that crosses the trail. And then, we were there just a moment ago, and then head on over to Fletcher Peak. So here we go, and let's just take a look at directional signs here. You seldom see Raintree without people all over the place. Such a popular spot. 3,000-year-old bristlecone pine tree. 3,000 years ago, what was happening? Classical Greek era. Just 1,000 years before Moses led the people of Israel out of Egypt. Biblical times, basically. And you're looking up at Mummy's Toe in the background. But this tree, with its amazing canopy, has been around for 3,000 years, since 1000 BC. when it was a little Raintree. Oh, by the way, here are the directional signs. To the left, North Loop Trail and Trail Canyon Junction, and then down to Trail Canyon and Charleston Village. To the right, Mummy Springs. That's the way we are going to go, down this direction, and then see if we can descend back to Deer Creek Road, or if we get stuck and have to reascend. That would be fun. Okay. Here's Raintree. And just look at this amazing, amazing canopy here. 3,000 years old. It's incredible. Incredible. Let's put my hiking sticks. These are about, 5.5 feet high. And so if you can imagine, gives you the idea of that, the diameter of this trunk. And a very healthy tree at that. But it's got to be, 6-7 feet diameter. Just amazing. What I like to also do here in this spot is show you what Raintree looked like 3,000 years ago. So if you want to see a baby Raintree 3,000 years ago, what Raintree looked like, here you go. This little bristlecone pine tree was Raintree 3,000 years ago, and over that time grew to become this. So truly amazing stopping point on the North Loop Trail. No matter how many times I pass this place, I always like to pause here and just imagine what this tree has experienced in 3,000 years of quiet growth in this spot. Okay, enough of the memories. Now let's head down toward Mummy Springs and look for that split off trail that will lead us downward, hopefully to Deer Creek Road and not to the middle of nowhere. Here we go. On the way to Mummy Springs, and here's that little trail from Raintree to Mummy Springs, but peeking between this opening, one can see some roads down there, and there's a little A-frame green top. Let's see if we can zero in on it a little bit better. Yeah, pretty amazing. I can see it with with my eyes, but not necessarily through the phone here. Too much glare. But there is a little cottage with a green roof and a number of trails right down in this area. And maybe you can see it in the video better than I can see it right now. And maybe we'll be on that system as we're heading down. I don't know. We'll find out. Still on the North Loop, not the North Loop, but on the Mummy Springs Trail, splitting off from the North Loop Trail at Raintree and heading toward Mummy Springs. Here's the trail. But I just wanted to stop here a moment and note that that beautiful high ridge detour that off the North Ridge Trail that we were standing on just not too long ago. There it is. There's that summit, that ridge summit, and then you can see you can ascend from the left side as you're ascending from Planet Switchback, and you can descend on the right side And then as soon as you hit that little saddle down at the base, you're back on the North Loop Trail. So there's that ridge. Good landmark. Okay. We're almost at Mummy Springs. I just wanted to get this approach view because the aspens are in such beautiful color. It's the first Saturday in October of 2020. And you can see Mummy's Head up ahead here. There's Mummy Springs. Here's the Mummy Springs Trail, which breaks off, you take a right at Raintree as you're facing Raintree, and you head up this trail. Very easy, short detour if you're on the North Loop Trail and you're going somewhere else. Definitely Mummy Springs is a beautiful little canyon, and well, beyond that canyon, if you continue along the base of these springs, which we're going to do, then you can traverse the east side of Mummy Mountain. And yeah, look at this. Just amazing, all the colors. But you can traverse the east side of Mummy Mountain and then head up to the northeast area and different approaches to the summit. If you're wanting to get onto Mummy's Toe, you just continue past the base of Mummy Springs here, and the trail will switch back a few times and then head up, and then there will be a little class 3 rock climb, and you'll take a left at the top of that rock climb, and you'll hit a pretty decent trail that takes you up to Mummy's Toe, and a very, very beautiful experience. And that's on the Mummy's Toe page of LasVegasAreaTrails.com. And here we are at Mummy Springs. And there you can see the rock that looks like it's just wet. There's not like a spring or a waterfall or anything. There are other springs on the Las Vegas Area Trails pages that flow and are very, very beautiful in their flow. But here, the beauty of Mummy Springs happens in November. You come up here and the water has built up into an ice fall. Very amazing. And you can see that on one of the Mummy pages on Las Vegas Area Trails. So I think it's one that goes up to Mummy's Knee. I'm not sure exactly. It might be one that goes across to the east side of Mummy and ascends Mummy Mountain on the east. But anyway, you see pictures of that spectacular ice fall that this damp rock turns into in November. But for today, we're going to continue along the base of, go through these beautiful aspens along the base. There's a trail just on the other side of those aspens that will appear, and at some point along that trail, there's a split off that heads straight down, and we're gonna take a look at that today. Okay, onward. Here we are amidst the aspens at the base of Mummy Springs, and if you live in the Las Vegas area, you have two seasons basically, cool and hot. There's no such thing as fall and spring, except that that at least you can be outside in the fall and the spring. If you want 4 seasons, come up here and you can experience the beauty and the joy of 4 seasons. I lived in Connecticut and earlier Oregon before I came here, and yeah, I miss the seasons. And so a moment like this is always very welcome and a true joy. Just beyond Mummy Springs, there is this curious split off. See how this goes down? And then the Mummy Springs trail that heads up toward Mummy's Toe, Mummy's Knees. You can see both those pages on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. That continues here. And you see all sorts of options from this location, continuing on up this trail. What we have never done is headed down this way. We don't know if it ends in a drop off and we have to come back up and retrace our steps, or if we can head all the way down to Deer Creek Road using this little trail. It looks like it's pretty well traveled from this point right here. Anyway, we've looked at this, roared past it as a trail runner a number of times, having, you know, a little plantar fasciitis heel injury slowed me down for today. And so this is the day. I thought, hey, I'm going to check this out so many times, and nope, I want to get to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Well, today is the day to check out this little trail, and we're thinking it might end up going down Cougar Ridge, but I don't know. We're going to find out. We wants to know. So down we go. Well, this little trail looks like the real thing. I can't imagine a trail would be this good and not lead all the way down to Deer Creek Road. So I'm going to imagine we are on the Cougar Ridge Trail, and we'll find out if we're not. That'll be an interesting discovery. Anyway, there's another perspective of that beautiful high ridge above the North Loop Trail we stood on not too many minutes ago. And then if you look up in this direction, you see Mummy's Toe on the left, and then the cliffs approaching Mummy's Toe on the right. So let's continue on down, see what we can discover. Okay, are we on the Cougar Ridge Trail? Pretty cool little trail heading down this ridge here, split off of the Mummy Springs Trail and heads downward. We're going to find out, but wow, look at the views here. I got to turn around pretty often because instead of ascending, I'm descending. There's Mummy's Toe in even greater view. And what's around this corner? Whoa. And there's that upper ridge above the North Loop Trail. And then the ridge that takes you over to Raintree, which would be right down in this area here. In fact, that tall tree there may in fact be, no, it's not Raintree. It's a tree in the foreground. Anyway, yes, continuing down, and so far so good. This little trail is looking like a real thing here. Okay, onward. Trail, so far so good. Beautiful area. Look at these bristlecone pines in this area, and then you can see the east side of Mummy Mountain up there through the trees. Let's go the other direction. and see what we can see. And here's a view of the trail, by the way. Cougar Ridge Trail? We'll find out. There is a trailhead that says Cougar Ridge, not too far beyond the North Loop Trailhead. One of the unknowns in the Spring Mountains. Okay, and there's that plateau. I mean, not plateau, that's the ridge above the North Loop Trail we stood on a few moments ago. And just on the other side of that ridge, the lower part, just before this tree that you see on the left, just to the right of that, I think that's where Planet Switchback begins and descends to the plateau on the North Loop Trail that we were on a little earlier in this video. So yeah, it helps to know where you are and to just keep the perspective. But I just have to say, this is definitely well worth it. And who knows, maybe it'll take you up to the Mummy Springs a lot more rapidly than the North Loop Trail does. If you just want to go to Mummy Springs instead of Raintree and going on to, around Mount Charleston Loop and that whole business, or descending down the Trail Canyon Trail to Charleston Village. If you just want to head up to the east side of Mummy Mountain from Deer Creek Road, this may be the way. We don't know yet because I've never been on this and it's unmarked. But I'm thinking it's the Cougar Ridge Trail from a marking I saw and a trailhead I saw down on Deer Creek Road. So let's continue down, see what we find out. One thing I'll say about this little trail is that it ascends or descends relentlessly, no matter which, depending on which direction you're going in. And boy, if this ends up at Cougar Ridge, I think we're looking at a route that I'll call Mummy Springs Loop, which I would suggest ascending the Cougar Ridge Trail and descending, going over to, at the top, take a left, go over to Raintree, and then descend the North Loop Trail to the North Loop Trailhead. That's my suggestion, just based on that this is such a radical ascent that you're probably not going to get a lot of running in, but you will get running on the descent. And some people will be able to run it. They're a little beyond my trail running level. But anyway, that's, and there here you can see Mummy's Toe, and you can see the area where Raintree is in that saddle, and then the high ridge above the North Loop Trail we were on not too long ago in this video. So yeah, that would be a great loop if this actually goes down to Deer Creek Road. And by the way, there's our little cabin. Yeah, there's a good view of it. On the other side of the next wash here. This wash is probably the middle wash. If you take the Mummy Mountain Northeast page and you see me traversing washes and ridges, this would be the second wash. This here, well, no. Correction. This would be the first wash. There are two more washes. And over this next ridge would be another wash. There'd be two more washes, and then you head up to Delta Canyon, which is in that area, Delta Canyon, aka the Fingers. So that's just a thumbnail sketch of of where we are at this point. And I think there are a couple roads that lead up to where this little house, cabin, whatever it is located, probably off the grid. But what a beautiful spot to live. Anyway, continuing on down. And by the way, this is such a downhill trudge. Well, not trudge. It's actually pretty nice. That I'm almost, in just a couple minutes, I'm almost done the equivalent of Planet Switchback on the other side of the ridge up behind the trees there. So yeah, it is a steep little trail, but it's a good trail. And so far I haven't encountered anything that we would label an avalanche slope. So even though the incline is rather steep, there is nothing that would resemble an avalanche slope, nothing more than what you see directly ahead. So this is an awesome find. Cougar Ridge Trail, we think. We'll verify that at the bottom. Even in spots like this, there are little footholds that are kind of like steps on this trail. And so far, I haven't actually been on an avalanche slope yet. Avalanche slope is where it's just totally slope and loose rock, and you feel like if you slip, you're going to slide. So far, every foothold has been very good. And so here we are, and you can see over this side that we're looking at, there's the high ridge on the North Loop Trail before you head on over along that ridge to Raintree at the base of Mummy's Toe. And so I would call this canyon that we're looking at between where we're standing in the high ridge, this probably Mummy Springs Canyon. It's the canyon that descends from Mummy Springs. And as you can see, continuing along down this area, this looks like a pretty substantial stretch where you could possibly slip, but the trail's winding around in a good direction, like it's not asking us to go right along the side of those rocks straight ahead, but it's winding down to the right over here, just beyond this tree. So still winding down in a very nice way. So let's just see where this ends up. Please end up at Deer Creek Road, because I don't want to reascend this and then go over to Raintree and down the North Loop Trail. Okay, down we go. We just finished descending a pretty steep, loose, rocky section. Still good footholds all the way up and down. But this underscores my suggestion. Ascend via this trail up to just beyond Mummy Springs, circle around, and descend on the North Loop Trail. And the reason that I say that is that your descent and ascent on this kind of incline with this, places loose rocks, is going to be about the same speed. So you might as well be ascending here, get that ascent over with, and then you just bop on over to Raintree, past Mummy Springs to Raintree, and then head down the North Loop Trail, and then you can run a lot of that section. So that would be the most rapid way to make this loop. Okay, if it's a loop, we still don't know for sure. Onward. Well, we've descended into a pretty nice little forest. The bristlecone pine trees are starting to disappear, which means that we are hitting the 9,000 foot point, or starting to get below 9,000 feet. we've got another 1,000 feet to go till we get to the elevation of Deer Springs Road. Anyway, very beautiful little stretch here of forest and the trails leveling off. Pretty nice, and remaining a very nice trail the whole way. So it's a great find here in the Mount Charleston Wilderness. Continuing on down this great little trail, I took a wrong turn and found myself at the base of the wash down there, and thought, nah, this trail is much better than that. So I just took a left and got back up on the trail. What do you know? Here is a little shelter, little makeshift shelter here. So if you're camping and you want a place to spend the night before you head up Mummy Mountain, this may be your spot. I'm just a little relieved there isn't some kind of animal in there. Okay, so continuing on down this great little trail. Okay, now this is interesting. You'll notice a little cairn right in front of me, and then this converts from a trail into an actual road, and the trail is actually in this direction, so the cairn tells you to take a left, but there's a road that heads up in this direction, which presents a possibility for a future adventure. Maybe this leads to that little cabin that we saw with the green roof. I don't know, but it could lead to the next ridge, which would actually make for a more direct ascent to the east side of Mummy Mountain. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to head down this road now. You're taking a right at the cairn, and if you're heading up this road, let's say this road is at the base of the it connects with Deer Springs Road, and you see that cairn straight ahead. What you would then want to do is take a left, and you've got a very nice trail up to Mummy Springs. Beautiful, beautiful. Great find. Okay, so let's head down this road and see where it leads. Another little intersection in the road. You can see where you can continue down to the right, or you can go up to the left, and more signs of life here. I don't think we're very far from Deer Springs Road. So, and here's the road that I just came down. So, as you can see, continuing down, and let's just see where this leads. I think I'm almost in a cabin residential area. Interesting. And I even see more signs of civilization below. So let's continue on down and see what we discover. There's a whole network of roads that's opening up here. There's another one that heads up. So shows a lot of possibilities of heading up, and then homes here, and then this is the road I just came down, and up there is part of the just beyond that ridge up there is the North Loop Trail. So let's continue on down, and we're hoping this goes to Deer Springs Road, but you know, it's definitely looks like it heads down to some road, because otherwise they wouldn't get all these vehicles up here. little residential area. And there is the Charleston Observatory. Straight through there, so shows we're close to Deer Springs Road. So we're winding around and heading down this little road through the area of the residence, and hopefully we end up at Deer Springs Road. Seems logical. And then here's the road we just came down. Dwellings, signs of life down here. Now here's some people walking up this road. So yeah, this is a definite approach to Mummy Springs. Okay, closing in on Deer Creek Road. Looks like this is a locked entrance only for vehicles of people who own homes up in this area. But here you see, right below us is Deer Creek Road, and then onward beyond is where we're going to find the North Loop Trailhead. So here we go. Enough, here we are at Deer Springs Road, or Deer Creek Road, and this is indeed Cougar Ridge Trail Road. And as you can see, they're selling homes up on Cougar Ridge, mailboxes. So there's quite a community up here. And then, so what you would do is at this point, you would head up this road and then catch the trail all the way up to Mummy Springs. Pretty direct route, which makes this a loop, Mummy Springs Loop, let's call it. And what I would suggest is park at the North Creek Trailhead, or the North Loop Trailhead parking area. You could park here, but I would suggest the North Loop Trailhead parking area or across the street there, because there's more established parking. And you could head up this road, head up to Mummy Springs, take a left at Mummy Springs Trail, head over to Raintree, and then down the North Loop Trail to the North Loop Trailhead. So that is my recommendation. That way, when you're heading up, you've got that steep section of Cougar Ridge Trail, and you're ascending about the same speed as you would be able to descend. On the other hand, when you're descending down the North Loop Trail, after you've passed Raintree, you are then able to run down. So that would be the direction I would go. Park at the North Loop Trailhead, take the road down here, take this road up, and then just head on up to Mummy Springs through the Cougar Ridge Trail, which is what this road is called. So there you have it. Awesome new loop in the Spring Mountains.